slime, or really any kind of viscous liquid. Today I'll show you boys how to make it move like on the turret, or just be a still mesh. It's basically like a combination of fluid simulations and solid meshes, and of course, as the title says, it should only take you 5 minutes. Otherwise, you suck at Blender. Nah, I'm just kidding. It takes a while to get the hang of, so your first few tries are probably going to take longer. This method is great for things like honey, putting goo on a character, or just covering something in slime. I made this little chunk of slime on a Roblox rig just to show you guys one of its applications, and as I said, you can just turn it into a still mesh if you want. By the end of the tutorial, all your epic little meshes will be covered in goo. You can like call your 3D modeling friend and be like, ho ho, I just covered this model in slime, so I'm better than you at modeling. Alright, let's get into the tutorial. So buckle up, get ready, and other anticipatory phrases. Alright, so I'm going to start by explaining the process of this method. So we start with the mesh we're going to cover in slime. Then we add another mesh to act as the domain for the slime as it falls onto the mesh. And finally, we add a mesh to act as the slime. The slime will fall, cover the mesh, and you can make some sick stuff, like frosting on a donut. To start, make the mesh you want to cover in slime. For the sake of the tutorial, I'm just going to do a simple pedestal. Now, add a mesh for the fluid. I usually do a cylinder, but any basic primitive will work. Put it a good bit above your mesh and make sure it's not too big. Now, go into wireframe mode, add a cube, and make sure all of your meshes comfortably fit inside of the cube. Now, under the physics tab, give the model a fluid simulation. Make the base mesh an obstacle, the floating goo fluid, and the cube holding everything a domain. In the domain settings, turn up the compressibility to about 0.02, the viscosity base to about 8, and the viscosity exponent to about 3. The rest of the settings will be fine as they are. Now, bake the simulation. You'll want to preheat your oven to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit for this, and you'll want to bake it for about 30 minutes. Once it's done, you can delete the fluid obstacle, since you only need the messed up looking one. You can scrub forward on the timeline to see the simulation play in real time, and when you find a frame that you like, you can pause the simulation, shade it smooth, and apply the fluid simulation under the modifier tab. It can also be nice to give it a smooth modifier. Now let's try it on something interesting. I hacked into the TDS game files and stole this model. Of course, for legal reasons, that's exactly what I did. I made sure it was all one mesh, then I just carried out the process. I used a cylinder for the fluid and the same old cube as before for the domain. For the domain settings, I kept them mostly the same. Then I just baked the simulation. I didn't turn it into a still mesh though, since I still had to make the animation you saw at the beginning of the video. Instead, I just gave it some color, and it was done. To make the animations, you would just render the simulation as an animation, which I'm not going to go over in this video since I've got a million other things to do. I hope you guys learned something in this video, and please, just be creative with this. There's probably like 500 things you can make with it. Well, I guess I'll see you boys later.